Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the Washington football team's free agency and why their free agency won them the NFC East. Before we get started though, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoy the video and let's dive right into it. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about this Washington football team. And, when we talk about, teams making moves in the offseason, we all know that the offseason is really what sets up teams, having success in the regular season. But when we talk about free agency specifically, we normally say that free agency, it helps teams, but it's not the only thing that helps teams. Like draft helps team, but even if teams spend big money in free agency and it looks like they've won free agency, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win the regular season. However, I think that they are. In this case, it's different. I think in this case, it's different with the Washington football team. And specifically, I want to look at the Ryan Fitzpatrick signing. I want to look at the Curtis Samuel signing. And most importantly, I want to look at the William Jackson signing. So, yeah, they did a good job here. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. They signed Lamar Miller, Curtis Samuel. Brandon Scherff went with the franchise tag. And then they did some other small stuff. Tyler Larson, David Mayo re-signed Dustin Hopkins. So, there's probably better kickers out there. But nonetheless, I really want to focus on Fitzpatrick, Samuel, and William Jackson. So, for starters, we all know that the Washington football team's defense was elite last year. It just was. The ability for, guys like Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen to get pressure onto the quarterback, and then, it was really, really good. They had an elite defensive line, one of the best in pro football, and that really helped their defense out a lot. And then we talk about their secondary, and guys like Landon Collins and obviously Kendall Fuller and Ronald Darby had a really good year because of that pressure up front. And although Ronald Darby is no longer with the team, they replaced him with William Jackson, and we'll get to that in a second. This Washington football team won the division last year. Sure, they didn't play well, and Alex Smith did his job and, won the team games down the stretch, but they made the playoffs in a very bad NFC East. However, I think this team got a lot better this offseason with the addition specifically of Fitzpatrick, Samuel, and William Jackson. Although I thought Alex Smith played really well last year, he didn't end up, staying with the Washington football team. They decided to move on from him. He decided that he wasn't going to be there anymore, so he's gone. Washington football team, no longer an Alex Smith show, but now it's the Ryan Fitzpatrick show. And the thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick is he played really well in Miami last year. If you remember, Tua came in, I think, week 6 or week 7 against the LA Rams, and then he kind of took over, right? He missed one game against the Jets because of a thumb injury, but overall, Fitzpatrick still threw for more yards than Tua did all season. And Fitzpatrick had, that Fitzmagic moment where he threw that pass to Matt Collins in the Raiders game. So we really saw what Ryan Fitzpatrick could do. We really saw that. Ryan Fitzpatrick's that guy who's not afraid to throw the ball down the field. He's not afraid to push the ball down the field. And that's exactly what Washington needs. Now you look at Washington's offense, and you're starting to see something. You saw, Terry McLaurin last year really show up. You saw Logan Thomas evolve. You saw Antonio Gibson. But the real thing with the Washington football team is they didn't have a true number 2 receiver that they could rely on. Now you go out and get Curtis Samuel on a 3-year deal worth $34.5 million. You've solved that issue. You have, because Curtis Samuel is not just a great receiver. He had a really good year last year. Not just as a pass catcher, where I think he had like 80 catches for 850 yards and a few touchdowns, but he also can do a lot of damage as a runner too. He's a guy that you can utilize almost like a Deebo Samuel in a way. He's just an all-around lethal offensive weapon as a pass catcher and as a runner. You can use him as a running back. They can use him in the slot. He's fast, quick. He's an offensive weapon that you can implant into this Washington football team. So now you've given this Washington football team a legit passing core, like a legit core of wide receivers with McLaurin. Now you have Curtis Samuel. You've got some other guys there, but nonetheless, now you have some wide receivers on the outside. You also still have Logan Thomas, and you now have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's not afraid to throw that ball deeper downfield. That's something we did not see from the Washington football team last year, because Alex Smith is a guy that likes to, go with those safer passes, short intermediate passing game. That's not Fitzpatrick's mantra. Fitzpatrick's mantra is, throwing the ball downfield, pushing that ball downfield, and the gunslinger mentality. The only problem with that is he does throw interceptions. However, we'll get to that in a sec. Another thing about the quarterback situation there is maybe the Washington football team still go after a young quarterback in the draft. Maybe they go after, Mac Jones falls to them. Who knows? We'll see if that happens. But nonetheless, this signing of Ryan Fitzpatrick is really good because he can play right now. This is his 9th NFL team. He can play right now because he showed that last year. He showed that he could still do it at a high level. He actually did play better than Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not kidding myself here. But nonetheless, I think this is a really smart move by Washington because it gives them a veteran quarterback that, hey, if you bring a young quarterback into the fold, then he can still sit behind him. He can still teach him, learn, make that younger quarterback learn from him. That's Ryan Fitzpatrick, but yet he can still play at a high level right now, play at a top 20, top 25 quarterback in the NFL right now. And in some weeks, you might get top 10 to top 15 quarterback play out of him. So really good move here by Washington getting Ryan Fitzpatrick. Obviously, great move for them getting a legit number 2 receiver in Curtis Samuel. But the one I really want to talk about is William Jackson III, signing to a 3-year, $40.5 million deal with up to $42 million in incentives with $26 million guaranteed. Obviously, Ronald Darby is out the door for Washington. He ended up going to the Denver Broncos on a nice little deal there. But nonetheless, getting William Jackson III, he's a great press man coverage corner. He's basically Ronald Darby, just better. Ronald Darby is another press man coverage corner. And although Washington didn't play a ton of press man coverage, and they didn't really let Ronald Darby play a ton of press man coverage last year, I think that, getting a guy like William Jackson, who's very sticky in man coverage, is very good for them. Jackson's one of the better corners in the NFL. He's definitely top 15 to top 20. You also have Kendall Fuller, who's another top 15 to top 20, 25 corner in the NFL. And now you're starting to make that secondary even better than it was last year. As I said, Jackson is sticky in man coverage. He's sticky. He can match up against those number 1 receivers, number 2 receivers, and now you've got 2 real legit corners on the outside in Kendall Fuller and William Jackson who can match up against teams' elite receivers. And this is what William Jackson did in Cincinnati. He's a former first-round pick. The only knock on him is he doesn't really get interceptions. He doesn't have the best hands or ball skills, but nonetheless, he's just annoying. He's an annoying corner. He's sticky in man coverage, and all these moves make sense, right? You're getting some talent on the opposite side of the football. This offense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. Fitzpatrick's going to be able to push down the ball down the field. Curtis Samuel is going to give them a legit another option who can be, a good dynamic pass catcher as well as runner. And then you get William Jackson, who's going to improve the secondary. Don't forget that defensive line is still going to be just as good as it was last year. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. And remember, that defense was fantastic last year. Fuller had multiple interceptions. He had a really good year. And then, you're going to bring in William Jackson, who's going to help that man coverage corner, help as a man coverage corner. So overall, I like these moves by the Washington football team that are really helping them cement themselves as that real contender in the NFC East. Now let's look at the other teams in that division. The Dallas Cowboys re-signed Dak Prescott, but their defense is absolutely terrible. They lost Chidobe Awuzie, who was arguably their best corner, and their offense is still a little bit of a mess with Ezekiel Elliott and their offensive line. It's a mess there in Dallas, and I think this Washington football team is a lot better than the Dallas Cowboys. The New York Giants, yeah, they've made some moves, but at the end of the day, I still think Washington's defense can shut them down. And the New York Giants definitely overpaid on a guy like Leonard Williams. Sorry if my screen keeps glitching. But nonetheless, I don't think the Giants are really any competition. Then the Eagles, they're a mess. They're really a mess. Their defense was really bad last year. Offense, I mean, they've had issues, and Carson Wentz isn't there anymore. Jalen Hurts, is he really the answer? I think Washington's defense is really what's going to carry them. And now that they've improved on the offensive side of the football too, I think this is a legit 9-7, 8-8, 9-7 team that was probably the best team and should be the favorites to win the NFC East. So I think in this situation, free agency in the offseason has really won the Washington football team the NFC East. But at the end of the day, they still have to go out and win the games. But I think they have the pieces to do that. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, see ya.